Hi, I'm Sister Sashay, bringing you warm greetings from Emmanuel Fellowship and Worship Center. We are so energized from Sunday's message as Pastor Faison encouraged the flock with a rhema word. So let's listen at the man of God deliver a message from God. You'll be glad you did.
In the presence of the Lord, as I teach from the subject, Lord, you need to do something. Sister Missy, let me say that I grew up in a time and in a town that people did something. Now let me explain what I mean by that. When people died, people did something. The whole town began to move. When people got sick, Deacon Rogers, people in the town did something. When people lost their jobs, people didn't just sit on their hands. They know a family had to eat, and people did something. Sister Patsy, when two people was on the verge of divorcing and breaking up, people in the town would get together and they would do something. A time when people did something. I'm saved. I didn't get saved to sit. I got saved to serve.
Yes, sir.
What are you saying? What I'm saying, God saved me, Deacon Mathis, to do something. I can't come to the house of God and not do something. Because in my life, I can look back over these years and see God doing something. But I got to say, it seems like the shepherd sometimes don't do nothing for the sheep. How can you be a good shepherd and you see me in the midst of these wolves and you ain't doing nothing? And I'm perplexed. I'm telling you, I'm perplexed this morning because I read a Bible. In the Bible, I read about a God that does something. Can I walk this for you? I'm thinking in my mind about Hezekiah on his sick bed, and he prayed to God, and God did something. There was a woman, and she had a little boy. His name was Ishmael, and her name was Hagar. And they got into the woods, and she cried. She didn't even ask God, but God heard her cry, and God did something. Daniel goes into the lion's den, and God goes in with him, and God does something. So I've been schooled and made to believe that I'm serving a God that does something. But the son is in a crisis. He's in this crisis, and he seems to think that God ain't doing nothing. And how do you know he's in a crisis? Because he is telling God to show yourself. And I know it's Sunday morning and you want to appear spiritual, but I bet you've been some nights and some days that you cried to God and asked God to show himself. Because you know you have a God that even if he don't do something, you know he has the capability and the power to do something. Lord, you need to do something. So let your pastor introduce you. Let your pastor introduce you this morning to three concepts as we work the first 7 verses of this amazing chapter. I want to show you, first of all, a description of God. Then I want to show you the depiction of the world. Then I'll come home on the subscription of man. I'm going to show you a description of God. And then I'm going to show you a depiction of the world. Then I'm going to show you the subscription of man. Let's go to work on that. So when we start talking about the description of God, we would describe God in our churches. We are church folk. And we have these cliches in this description of God. And if somebody asks you to describe God, you will say he's a God of love. Somebody over here would say that he's a God of grace, then mercy. And you wouldn't be wrong in your description because God is a God of love and he is described as a God of mercy. That's a good description of God. Whatever you ever thought in your mind's eye that you might be missing out on something that's very important when it comes to describing God. God is a God of vengeance. The psalmist knows this. That's why he's saying, you got to show yourself. We got to get some straightening up in here. So more importantly, when I call God a God of vengeance, I'm saying God avenges his people. He avenges his people. And the psalmist knows this. I know who you are. Have you ever told God, I know who you are? And you're not acting in accordance of who I know you are. God, I need you to show yourself. I've been done wrong, Sister Ann. I need you to show yourself. I've been talked about. I need you to show yourself. I'm in church and I'm serving you. Every day of my life, I'm serving you. You're always at the front of my mind. I need you. If you don't do nothing else, God, I need you to show yourself. I need you to do something. He's the God of I will handle it. He says, vengeance is mine. I will handle this. What are you getting? He's the God that handles it. He tells you to go ahead and do what you're supposed to do, and I will handle that. Give me Bible on that, Pastor, because I don't really understand. He is saying, go on through the road, through the Red Sea, Moses. I'll handle Pharaoh. He is saying, Elijah, come out that cave. I will handle Jezebel. He's telling Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, go on through the fire. I'll handle the heat. Well, Pastor, that's good. I understand what he's telling Moses. I understand what he's telling the three Hebrew boys. But what is he telling me this morning? He's telling you to go ahead and go to work. I'll handle your boss. Go ahead and go to church. I'll handle the hypocrites. Go ahead and go to sleep. I'll handle your tomorrow. You got a God that handles. Yes, people will talk about you. Yes, people will mistreat you. But I'm telling you, you go ahead and handle business. I'll handle them. No, they don't like you. Yes, they're jealous of you. But when you understand God, you must understand two things. Because if you don't understand these two things, you will always stay back in your feelings. You will never proceed. You will stay in the cave. You won't cross your Red Sea. You won't go into the fire. Now what two things are those that I need to know? Here it is, Sister Penny. The first thing you need to know, if God be for you, I want somebody to hear me. That's not just a verse I'm quoting. I'm telling you, in life, if God be for you, who? The reason why I can teach in this church like I teach, you got to admit, I ain't scared, because if God be for me in the pulpit, who? You got to live your life, and you got to go forward in life if you know God. Now, if you got some questions whether or not God is for you, and some of you do got questions, and you thinking, I don't know if God for me, because in reality, I ain't for him. I know I'm sold out to God. I know what I got in God. I know the dedication of my life. I never question my service to God. God know what he got in me. He told me in Psalm 139 just last night, I know what I got in you. The Pastor, you said it was two. The first one, if God be for you, who? The second one, watch me now. When God give quietness, who can make trouble? What God has ordained for you in life, who can take it away from you? But the psalmist don't understand that, and he's saying, God, show yourself. Let me tell you something. God ain't got to show himself to take care of you. You need to understand this. Watch me now. He says, avenge not yourself. Now, I like this part. He said, avenge not yourself. He says, but give space. What does that mean? He says, get out the way and give me some room. You ever know when you get ready to get into it, you start moving furniture because you don't want to break nothing? You need some space. And God says, I need you to get out the way, because when sparks start flying, I don't want you to get burned. The problem is you crying, God, where you at? He said, I'm waiting till you move. I'm waiting till you give me some space. You see, ain't no need of two of us working on the issue. Ain't no need of two of us getting mad at the person and trying to handle the person. I need you to give me some space. The problem is you won't give God no space. And you give him some space, but you all up in his face talking about show me. Means get out the way. See, it's hard for us to get out the way because we have been taught, listen at me now, we have been taught to be vengeful. Stay with me because I'm teaching. I bet you I'm teaching. We have been taught to be vengeful. Explain that, Pastor. I don't really understand. Let me prove to you, you have been taught to be vengeful. Watch me now. But not only have you been taught to be vengeful, you've taught your children to be vengeful. Pastor, I don't know how you can say that. I don't know why you would say that. How can you say, let me tell you how you taught your friend. I'm going to stop until they get seated because y'all ain't listening to me. Everybody good now? Y'all look back up at me. It's just people coming to church. Amen. All right. If you listen, say amen. Amen. Now that I got your full attention, listen, you have been taught to be vengeful. Explain it, Pastor. Here's what you teach your children. And I ain't mad because you teach your children that, but this is what you teach them. If somebody hit you, if somebody hit you, I want you to take matters in your own hand. That's what you told them. And I don't want my kid to just be somebody's punching bag. And I'm not condemning you for teaching them if somebody hit. I'm not condemning you, but to be biblically, because what it does, it carries a deeper connotation. Because watch me now, when you teach them as a little child, if somebody hit you, hit them bite, but that carries on into life. If somebody cuss you, cuss them bite. If somebody talk about you, talk about them bite. Watch me now. If somebody cheat on you, so you got to understand that while you teaching them as a child, they ain't going to stay as a child. But the principles that you teach them as a child carries on into their adult life. Stay with me now because I'm helping you. People will take matters into their own hand and say, listen. People want some get back. People want to get some straightening. Listen. If God ever made hate all right, see, it's wrong to hate people, but if God ever changed his mind and says, okay, hate, you already got some people in mind. The story goes, a man goes to the hospital, he get diagnosed with rabies. He said, Doctor, I got rabies. He said, yeah, the blood test came back, you got rabies. He tells the nurse, hurry up, give me a paper and a pen. And he got the paper and pen and he began to write. And the doctor says, wait a minute, you don't have to write out your will. It's not fatal. He said, I ain't writing out my will. I'm making a list of people I want to bite. And you got a list of people. Now, it's church and you ain't going to admit it, but you got a list of people. You might not want to bite them, but you want to get back at them. Now, I need to tell you, while you saying, God, you need to do something, I need to tell you real quick that God is not impotent. I want you to hear me. God, see, there are reasons why vengeance belongs unto the Lord. There are reasons why. Now I want you to see this. Give me verse 1. I want you to see this because I'm going to teach out of verse 1 first. Just a minute, I want to teach you. Because a lot of times, Mr. Amos, when we read the Bible, we don't read the Bible. You got to read the Bible. You got to get into the Word to see what He's saying. And as your pastor, I can't just read the Bible. I'm your pastor. I got to study the Bible, line upon line. I can't get up here and holler and rant and rave. You don't need that. When life hits you, you can't holler, rant, and rage. You better know who you got in God. Or you'll find yourself saying, show yourself, Lord, you need to do something. Now look at the verse. I want you to say, because God is not empty. I want you to see, you see God in that verse twice, Marlo. You see it twice in there. But that's not what you see. What you see is him saying, Jehovah, to whom vengeance belongs. It seems like he's repeating himself, but he's not repeating himself, Brother Hightower. He said, Jehovah, vengeance belongs unto you. What he's saying is, Jehovah, you got the authority to bring vengeance on these people. Listen at me now. He said, I need you, Jehovah, to bring vengeance because you have the authority. I'm teaching, stay with me now. But then as the verse go on, you see him saying, oh God, to whom vengeance belongeth. Show yourself. Now the second time you see God is not Jehovah. The second time you see God is Almighty. Now I want you to see what he's saying now. He's saying, you got the authority to bring vengeance, but not only do you have the authority to bring vengeance, you got the power to back up your authority. I'm teaching. Let me contemporize it for you. You have, if you own property, you have the authority to put up a fence and a sign around your property that says, keep out. You have that authority. Now, if you put the sign up that says keep out and the fence up, the fence and the sign has authority, but it has no power to keep people out. They can smash down your sign and jump your fence. Because authority must have power behind it. So what's the power? Put a pit bull in your fence. I'm teaching, I'm in the Bible. Now you have power to back up your authority. If I tell you to back up and get out my face, my mouth has the authority to tell you that. I have the authority, you in my space. You in my space, Sister Walker. I have the authority, you have the authority to tell somebody to back up. But your authority don't give you no power. Do you hear me, Minister Bryant? So where does the power come from? These lefts and rights. I'm not advocating violence, I'm just making a point. Authority need power. So the next time somebody get in your face and you tell them to back up, they're going to back up. Not because of your authority, but because your authority got back up. So he's telling God, use your authority, and if your authority don't work, you need to use your power. Because you are the God that has both authority and power. See, we got authority, but we don't have much power. Why do people go out and buy guns? They need power. They need something to back up their authority. Stay with me because I'm helping you. So he's telling God, I need you to do this. Now watch this here. He's telling God, I'm coming to you and telling you to use your authority and your power. Watch me now, because you have that. No man has the authority. Listen, no man has the authority or the implied consent to interfere with God's purpose, God's plan, or bother God's people. Now listen to me, I'm helping you. No man has the implied consent. What does implied consent mean, Pastor? Implied consent means you assume it's okay. You are not to assume it's okay to bother with God's plan, purpose, and power. I still don't understand what implied consent means. Can you contemporize the pastor? Implied consent is something that the firemen have when they come to your house and you out on the floor and you ain't breathing. Implied consent means they assume it's okay to give you first aid, to give you CPR, to render help to bring you back to life. Watch me. But if they break a rib while they're giving you chest compressions, you can't go back and sue them because you have given the government implied consent to save your life. But no, God has not given any man the right to bother with his plan, his purpose, or his people. So the psalmist is saying, I need you to do something because these people are bothering me and they don't have consent to bother me. Has anybody ever bothered you without your permission? Stay with me. I'm helping you. But God has this authority to go after anybody that bothers his plan, his purpose, or his people, because no man has the right. But God owns the right to avenge anybody that violated his people's rights. So the psalmist is saying, I need you to show up. I need you to show out because these people are bothering me. I can't do your will because I'm being bothered. I'm being hampered. That's why it's dangerous for you to touch God's anointed because you interfere in his purpose, his plan, and with his people. So he says, I'm telling you to touch not my anointed, not for their good, but for your good. Because God will avenge his people. And watch me now, you gotta let God do the avenging because, watch me now, because his timing is impeccable. Listen to me now. His power is perfect. Don't miss this now. His wisdom is unmatched. But here's what I want to tell you. The reason why you gotta let God avenge for you is that when God does the avenging, don't miss this, he blesses the person who has been wronged and the person who has done the wronging. Listen, it's important. What do you mean by that, Pastor? He's going to make the person that's been wronged praise him for avenging. And he's going to make the person that has wronged you see the error of their ways and the reason why he's avenging. So when God steps in, both the wrong going to see God's hand move and going to praise, and the person that has been doing the wronging going to be left seeing the error of their ways. So God has blessed both people. But when you do the avenging, watch me now, if it's not a complete avenging, you still won't get right. And the person that, watch me, and the person that you go after, they won't get back. So what you have is a lifelong struggle. They messing with you, and you messing with them. I'm talking to somebody, because there's somebody in here been going through it with this person for years, simply because they don't understand that vengeance is mine, said the Lord. God will come in and avenge you and put an end to this strife between you and this person, but you got to let God do it his way. What are you saying, Pastor? I'm saying God is not impotent. He knows what he's doing, authority and power. But not only is God not impotent, listen to this, you can't grow impatient. Now, I'm looking at the verse, Deacon Roger, I'm saying, why is it, listen to me now, this psalmist is saying you need to show yourself. And see, why is it that we have this need for speed when it comes to God? But when it comes to doing God's work, everybody's slow. Why is it a crime if God don't work according to your time? This need, and it's killing me, it says show yourself really. You mean to tell me you're going to demand vengeance? How can you place a demand on God when you can't keep the commands of God? How can you actually order God when you can't keep the orders of God, but yet here you are talking about show yourself? Really? You want God to show himself. I want you to think about what you're saying when you say, Lord, show. The psalmist said, Lord, show yourself. Why does that bother you, Pastor? Here's why it bothers me. Because every time the wind blows, God is showing himself. Every time the rain falls, God is showing himself. Every time the sun shines, God is showing himself. Every time my heart beats, every time my eyes blink, God is showing himself. Every time a cell divide or my muscles contract or my pupils dilate, God is showing himself. Every time I chew on food and I swallow food and the digestion process starts, that's God showing himself. And now we're going to ask God to show himself. When you got up in the morning, did you not know God just showed himself? When you laid and slumbered and didn't have to watch over your own self, did you know that was God showing himself? And you got the nerve to ask God now to show himself because you've been wrong? And we got this thing that God ought to show himself because we growing impatient. How can you grab? I want to know, somebody need to explain to me, how can you grab the God of heaven and try to make him work according to your time? Do you know that the calendar was created for us and not for God? Do you know that 365 has nothing to do with God and 24/7? God does not observe your 24/7. Paul says God works, but he works according to his will and his good pleasure. And you have to understand that God does not work according to a human time. You do understand that, right? Now, I understand that numbers have significance. As a pastor, I understand. I'm just teaching this morning. I'm just giving you the preview before I deal with next week what you really need to know. I'm just trying to prep you. And you do know that numbers are significant, but all numbers must bow to God. What are you saying, Pastor? He does things according to his good pleasure. He attributes numbers to him, but it's according, it's when the Bible said that when it pleased God, he did it. So numbers must please God. Let me give you some numbers that you can identify with. It was 40 days and 40 nights on the boat. Why 40 days? Because 40 days and 40 nights, it pleased God. Jericho, they went around 7 times. Why 7 times? Well, I can get into the theatrics of it, but when it comes down to it, 7 times please God. Why was Jesus Christ on the cross 3 hours in the dark and 3 hours in the light? Let me tell you why. Because it pleased God. Pastor, I've been going through this a long time. Let me tell you why you've been going through it a long time. Because it pleases God. Well, when will God bring me out when it please God? So you can stop saying, please God. It ain't happening till it pleases God. Because we have grown impatient of telling God, instead of God telling God to show himself, you need to start showing yourself. Showing yourself to be worthy of your calling. Showing yourself as an heir of salvation. Showing yourself as a servant of God. Showing yourself on Sunday morning. Showing yourself in Sunday school. How you going to tell God to show himself and you won't even show up on Wednesday nights? You got some nerve to try to tell. This psalmist is telling God to show himself, and you told God to show himself. No. Let's reverse the question. Why won't you show yourself? There's people out there that need to hear about the gospel. Show yourself. There's people that need to be visited in the hospital. Show yourself. There's some people that might need a light bill paid. Show yourself. It's time we stop asking God to show himself, and we need to start showing ourselves. God showed himself on the cross. God showed himself on the tomb. God shows himself as Jesus is on the right hand of the Father. I ain't asking God to show himself because God has already showed himself. What do you mean that, Pastor? Look at me. I'm preaching when I'm not supposed to be preaching. What are you looking at? I'm looking at somebody that God showed himself to. Show yourself. Are you kidding me? Come on, bro. God, show yourself. And it rain and you don't want to get your hair wet. But Mr. Gilmore will see you in the morning on Monday morning, whether it rain or shine. How you show yourself to Mr. Gilmore, but you won't show yourself to God. So that's the description of God. Let me give you the picture of the world. See, the verse is going to give you a depiction of the world. But let me say this to you. We start start talking about depiction, we're talking about what it pictures, what is portrayed. Let me get a little bit more contemporary with you. When we start talking about Jesus, Jesus shows himself as a picture of compassion. It's Martin Luther King weekend, and when I think about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, the Rosa Parks, you know Rosa Parks, they portray a picture of grace under fire. Somebody, I don't know if everybody know him, but his name is John Lewis, recently died. And I don't know if you ever go back into your history books. He was one of the brothers that tried on Bloody Sunday to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And he came back again, but the first time he wasn't successful. But when I look at John Lewis, I look at a portrait or a picture of sacrifice. Stay with me. When people look at you, what do they see? What are you portraying? What do you picture? Stay with me. Do you picture a model of consistency or inconsistency? What does the child see? Do you picture a model of hypocrisy, of genuineness? What do God see? Do you picture religion or righteousness? What are you a picture of? The Bible says a good name is rather to be chosen than gold or silver. Well, Pastor, tell us about you. I know it's not really homiletically, but take a minute and tell us about you. What do you picture, or what is it that you want the church to see when it comes to you? Well, the Bible says that we're all of the royal priesthood. But when you see me, I don't just want to be a picture of the royal priesthood. I want to be a picture of a loyal priesthood. There's something about loyalty that just strikes me as godly. And I'm not mad at Tony Braxton. I like Tony Braxton. But Tony Braxton got it half right, Deacon Rogers. Can I explain what I'm talking about the sister? The sister wrote a song, and the song says, "Love should have brought you home last night." But if it wasn't love that should have brought the brother home, it should have been loyalty that brought the brother home. Yeah. Because loyalty is a tenet of love. I'm not mad at Major Harris, but he said love won't make you wait. But it's not so much love that's not going to make you wait. It's the loyalty that won't make you wait. I'm in the Bible. Because Jesus says, I always do those things that pleases the Father, not so much out of love as you think, but out of loyalty. So loyalty brings me to church. I love him, but it's loyalty. Because I can't have love for my God if I don't have love. Stop telling me how much you love God and start showing me how loyal you are to God. God looks deep inside of his love. He looks into his love that you say you have, trying to find some loyalty. And you can't stand in front of God talking about, I love you, when you weren't loyal to him. Love should have brought you to church. No. Loyalty should bring you to church every Sunday. Love gets you to read the Bible. But it's the loyalty to the word that gets you to obey the Bible. If love and loyalty don't bring you home at night, something called sin is keeping you in the streets. Love and loyalty don't bring you to church and to God. I'm wondering what's keeping you away. Ask yourself, if love and loyalty won't bring you, what's keeping you? And the question, let me tell you, the question you have, you're saying, well, Pastor, I don't really get it. Let me go a little deeper into the verse. When we start looking at the verse, Kim, I want you to see the arrogance of the world. See, I want to show you the world. I want the depiction of the world. The world is very arrogant, but I want you to look what the verse says. Look at verse 4. Look at verse 4. It says, the workers of iniquity boast themselves. motive people to be arrogant is the wicked. Now watch me. We don't boast ourselves in the church because really, what do we have to boast about? Who in here could cry holy? Who in here can cry, I saved myself? Who in here can cry righteousness? Who in here can cry, I get it right all the time? What do you have to boast about? The only thing I can boast about is that Jesus is Lord. That Jesus came to save, to seek and save that was lost. I can boast about he went to the cross and he died for man, but before he died for man, he suffered for 6 hours. I can boast that if the Lord be lifted up, he'll draw all men unto himself. If I'm going to do some boasting in here, it's not going to be in Dan Faison, but the Father that's in heaven, if we're going to do some boasting in him. But the Bible says, but the workers of iniquity, they boast. They're arrogant. Now, you got to be arrogant if you have exchanged the truth for a lie. You got to be arrogant if you serve the creature more than you do the creator. You got to be arrogant if you don't change the definition of marriage. You got to be arrogant if you've changed the definition of a woman. You got to be arrogant if you told God, I don't like the way you define it, and I think I'll redefine it. But it's the wicked that has done that. The church says, if God has said it, we believe it. See, arrogance changes things. I told the Sunday school class this morning, the problem with women is you're trying to change what God has made. You can't never change what God has done and be successful and prosper. Women done changed it. We got women in society that's tired of being women. They want what man has now. You done gone too far with it. But God is not surprised because of the day we're living in. Look at women now. They want what man got. Man boxing, they want to box. Your body was not even man body was created to take blows to the head. But since man got it, you want it. Look at women. I want what man got. Give me an M16 and let me go to war. They done got so bad that they want what man got. What does man got? Women saying, man got a wife, I want one. Man can wear the pants. Why can't I wear pants? Why can't I start marrying women? That's the boldness of the wicked. They boast themselves right in God's face. When you read Romans chapter 1, he said, that's what you want. I'm going to give you over to that uncleanliness. I'm going to give you over to vile affection. If that's what you want, I'm going to give it to you. Because now you boast in yourself. They even call their parades pride. Ain't nothing in the Bible that warrants the pride. The Bible said the Lord resists the pride, but they so arrogant, they don't care that pride is resisted. They still say, I'm proud because I'm defying God. The wicked, the workers of iniquity boast themselves. I know I'm teaching. This is the world we live in now. Somebody better hear me. This is the world we live in where the wicked now are boasting. They don't care nothing about no God. They ain't in no church. And there you go at the wedding, 2 men kissing, and there you go talking about, oh, they in love. No, that's a vile affection. 2 women sleeping together. You say, well, you know, I love and let love. The Bible said that God had to come and get Lot. Watch me now, watch me. But he couldn't get his children out because they had grown complacent with it. And when God raptured his church out of here, who he going to leave behind in here? Maybe those that have gone complacent with sin and debauchery to the degree that don't bother you. It bothers me when I see 2 women defy God. Now, I'm not getting ready to say nothing to them, but it bothers me. God didn't give you to a wife. He gave you to a husband. Bothers me when I see a man lie with a man as he would a woman. It bothers me. Why? Why? Because I'm godly. I'm spiritual. I have not been turned over to a reprobate mind. God has not given me over to accept sin. What has he told you? To cry loud and spare not, to tell my people their sin. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to tell you your sins. Why? Because I tell myself my sins. And there you go, oh, my co-worker, I think I'm finna go to the wedding. Who your co-worker married? He married John. Then to come to church and, oh, I love the Lord. You can't love the Lord and not hate what he hates. Oh, God loves everybody. He loves us. No, the Bible says he's angry at the wicked every day. You think it's okay for men to lay with men. They bold enough to. Watch what the Bible says. Now, I want you to hear this. The Bible said, look, he says, how long shall they, don't miss this, because I'm teaching now. How long shall they utter and speak hard things? You see that? It says utter and speak. I thought uttering was speaking. See, that's why I got to get you to get in touch with the scriptures to understand what God is really saying. See, when he says utter and speak, they utter was on their mind and speak was in their head. Listen. They think one thing and they believe one thing. They utter without thinking and they speak without believing. So what they utter is going to always be against God, and what they and what they believe is always going to be against God. Stay with me now. I'm helping you. They utter and speak hard things, and the hard things that they speak are things that's hard to believe. Listen at me now, because I'm helping you. Stay with me now. If you listen and say amen. This is important. Let me tell you two things that they utter and speak that's hard to believe, but believe it. This is hard to believe, but in this generation, they utter and speak who need God. Who need God? That's what they saying on the golf course this morning. That's what they saying laying in their bed this morning. That's what they saying walking in their pajamas this morning. Who need God? Stay with me now. Who need it? And not only your children, because you asked the question, since I've been preaching this hard, you went back to your children and tried to get them in church. And you got to ask yourself, Pastor, why can't I get my children in church? But not only your children, my friends, my family. Why can't I get these people in church? Have you ever asked yourself that? Have you ever really thought about it? Because in their mind, they utter, they think, and they believe, who need God? Now let me tell you why. It's not the only reason, but one of the reasons, something for you to consider. They feel like they don't need God because all the numbers are right. You listen at home, you got that? Here's your blessing. Right now, all the numbers are right. Nobody never said this to you, but I'm going to teach you. Right now, your friends, your family, all the numbers are right. It's not 100% of everybody, but by and large, what do you mean by all the numbers are right? Your son, your daughter's at home, the numbers are right. What do you mean? This is the numbers. They still got 20/20 vision. The pressure is still around 120 over 80. The glucose level is still under 100. The heart is still beating around 72 beats per minute. The temperature is still right at 98.6. All the numbers are right. But there's going to come a time. Listen at your pastor. There's going to come a time when the number is going to fluctuate. They won't come until the numbers start fluctuating. What do you mean? There's going to come a time when the numbers going to fluctuate. When the joints going to ache. And the teeth won't chew steak. And the diet won't allow cheesecake. And for God's sake, picking up something heavy becomes a mistake. And they speak these hard things, and they'll stop speaking hard things when life becomes a hard thing. They'll come to God when life have come to them. See, right now they can play with life, but there's going to come a time when they can't play with life. They're going to have to start praying about life. There's going to come a time when the doctors don't have no answers and there's no earthly answers, and you got to look to heaven. Who need God? Keep living, you will. There's some people in here that don't think they need God because all the numbers are right, but the numbers ain't going to stay right. You ain't going to always keep this health. You ain't going to always keep this vision. Life ain't going to always treat you good. There's going to come a time, I bet you're going to need God. They speak hard things. Listen. I got to give you two because two is the number of witness. Not only do they speak hard things, Deacon Matthews, watch me now. When I say they speak hard things, who need God, they'll also say, who need church? Hard to believe that somebody could say, who needs something that Jesus died for and rose again and built the church? That's a hard thing. It's hard to believe that you can be against something that Jesus is for. It's a hard thing that you can tear down something that Jesus built up. That's a hard thing to believe, but they say, who needs church? What's the problem, Pastor? Here's the problem. The problem is that people come to church expecting church to be good to them instead of church being good for them. Contemporize it, Pastor. I went to the dentist the other day and they shot me right in my gums. And the shot wasn't good to me, but when he started working on my mouth, I found out that the shot was good for me. The problem with people is that we have become accustomed to getting our pleasure and forgetting about the pain. But sometimes you got to get the pain and then you appreciate God's pleasure. Oh, I know I'm preaching this morning. See, I call them my big four. You know why I call them my big four? This ain't nobody. But I call them my big four because only big fools use them. The first of my big four is drugs. Drugs, I tell people all the time, drugs are a giver of pleasure, but a stiller of treasure. Show me somebody that's smoking this morning, smoking crack this morning, that got anything. Now, alcohol don't steal. That's my second of the big four. Alcohol don't steal your wealth, but keep drinking, it's going to steal your health. You say you have four. I'm getting to the third one. Cigarettes. But Pastor, they calm my nerves. But will they be able to calm the nuisance that they're going to bring? You got another one, Pastor, I got this one. I could talk about this one all day, but I ain't got time. Sex. Sex will make you cry tears of sorrow. If not cry tears of sorrow, it'll make you cry for years about them taking from your salary. So don't be a big fool and get caught up in the big four. I didn't say four, I said four because I want you to know where I'm coming from. Because we have this tendency to believe if we're getting pleasure, this much pleasure can in no wise produce this pain the pastor always talking about. Ask somebody that have engaged in the big four. Ask them how long they engaged in it, and they'll tell you about the big four. If they're honest, they'll tell you I was a big fool. Because mama tried to warn me. Mama tried to tell me. And God is warning us and telling us, well, stay with me now. But somebody said, who needs church? Let me say this out. One way or another, in most cases, you will end up in church. Either pain will make you walk through the door into church, or death will make you roll into the church. So here's your choice. You can walk into the church on Sunday morning, or you could be rolled into the church on Saturday afternoon. But either way, somebody gonna preach a sermon to you or preach a sermon over you. Your choice. Because this is the arrogance of the world. I don't need God. I don't need church. Now, watch me now, because of the arrogance of the world, I want you to see in the verse the offense of the world. I want you to look what they say. I want you to see what I'm saying. The offense of the world. The world's offense is in this verse. They mess with the wrong people. The verse says, thou afflict thy people. Have you ever messed with somebody and then found out there was some kin of somebody that you didn't want to mess with? You mean to tell me I messed with this boy and that's Debo little brother? And see, that's when you mess with God people, you're like, oh, I done messed with the wrong. See, Favor was all right. He was doing all right till he messed with Israel. Jezebel, nobody, she was doing okay until she messed with Elijah. She was doing just fine. The devil was doing just fine until he messed with Jesus. See, some people you ought not just mess with. That's why I tell people, leave me alone. Leave me alone now. I ain't bothering you. I'm on program. Leave the pastor alone. Tell women, leave me alone. I don't get down like that no more. You get ready to cause yourself a whole lot of problems bothering me. And when I was lost, watch me now. When I was lost, this is the Godhead and truth. I say this in the presence of God. I wasn't lost. I was bike sledding. When I was bike sledding, I went to the Federal Credit Union. That's my bank. And they told me, they said, hey, Dad, that girl like you. You know me? I said, which one? They said, that one right there. I ended up bringing her to Harvest Baptist. But I went, that ain't how I started. I went to the girl, I said, what's up? She's like, hey. You mind if I call you? No, call me. She wrote a phone number on the deposits, on my deposit slip. I went home, I called her. I said, tell me a little bit about yourself. She said, well, I just got saved. I go to this church. I said, I'll talk to you later. I didn't go back until I got right with God. Why? Because the Bible says if you bother one of these little ones, you might as well tie a millstone around your neck and cast yourself. I knew not to bother God's people. And all the wickedness I did when I was bike sled, it was never to or with one of God's people. I was bike sled and I found me a lost person to say it to or to do it with. Because I know how to respect what God says. And the world has, of all the people that the world can mess with, they messing with the people that's the apple of God's eye. They're messing with people that he's gone to prepare a place for. They're messing with the heirs of salvation. They're messing with pilgrims and strangers and peculiar people. Don't you know who you messing with? And the psalmist is telling God, look who, you got to show yourself, look who they bother with. The last thing for you to do is bother with the church. This is the offense of the world. This is why God gonna punish the world, because the church ain't bothering y'all. Why y'all bothering the church? Of all the people you can bother the atheists, you can bother the agnostics. Ain't nobody bothering the agnostics and the atheists. Nobody's bothering them. You can bother the devil. The devil worshipers just having a good time. Ain't nobody, the world want to destroy the church. And the reason why God has passed judgment, look at the world. The reason why the world is a mess is because they're bothering the church. And this is what the psalmist is saying. This is the picture of the world. They bothering us. Look what they doing to your heritage. Look what they doing to your people. And then it's worse because the psalmist says they bothering the very people that you have promised to protect. Who is that, Pastor? You have promised to protect the orphans and the widows and the strangers, and they bothering those people. And because you bothering the church, and because you're bothering people that God has promised to protect, now God is finna bother you. Prepare to meet your God. Let me go to the last. Let me go to the subscription of man. You need to hear this. The subscription of man. What does that mean? Here's what it means. It means that what man has subscribed to. Man has subscribed to a certain ideology. Now see, when it comes to me, I have subscribed to the Word of God and the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, you have to ask me, Pastor, why have you subscribed to the teachings and the Word of God? Why have you changed your whole life and now base your whole life around God? Why are you so blessed? Not just financially, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. I'm stable. Why? But why? What is it that is it something you're doing? No, it's what I subscribe to. You know, you used to subscribe to Sports Illustrated. Well, no, I had a subscription for 8 years. I ain't get no blessing. Just payments every year. So tell us, Pastor, why do you subscribe to God, and why should I subscribe to God? I ain't talking about coming to church. Why should I just give my life over to Christ and just deny myself? Why? Let me tell you the first reason why I subscribe. I subscribe to God. Listen at me now. Here's why I subscribe to God. Because of his welcome. Stay with me. He welcomed me, and I got to bring it all to him. I didn't have to get rid of nothing. I didn't have to make no excuses for the stuff I did. He went back and he settled my past. He stabilized my present, and he prepared and secured my future. It was the welcome that I got. See, sometimes you get welcome, and people are welcoming you into their house with open arms, and then in 2 or 3 days, they're asking you to leave. But when I came to God, he opened his home, opened his kingdom, and even though I have fell down, he has never asked me to leave. Even though I have fell down in the ark, he has never kicked me out the ark. Even though I was in the ark and didn't do right, there was no water in the ark. I'm telling you, I have subscribed to God. Just because of the welcome? No. The second reason I've subscribed to God is because of the whoopings. The whooping. I like what the psalmist says. He said, the Lord has chastened me sore, but he has not given me over to death. He whooped me not to death, but he whooped me to life. He whooped it out of me, and then he put it in me. He whooped me enough that I could hear the calling. I gotta love him because he chastened those that he loved. He whooped me because he loved me. He whooped me because he had a reason for the whooping. He whooped me because he was getting ready to put me in the ministry. I welcome the whooping because it was the whooping that put me on the straight and narrow, that changed my life. Not only did I subscribe to God because of the welcome, but I subscribed to God because of the whooping he gave me. But not only not subscribe to him because of the welcome and the whooping, but I subscribe to him, watch me now, because of his wisdom. Simply, he knows. I got a God that knows when. I got a God that knows why. I got a God that knows how. See, there was time when I didn't know when. I should have, but I just didn't know when. There was time when I laid up in the bed and I cried because I didn't know why. If I had known why, I wouldn't have went through that night of tears and crying. But now I got a God that shows me when and a God that shows me why. I'm so glad God is not selfish and keep his wisdom to himself, but he gives it to me unabradedly and unashamedly. I subscribe to God because of the whoopings, because of the welcome, and because of his wisdom. But there got to be a fourth one, because of his word. Not just an informative word, but a transformative word. The interest of that word has given me light. I can see now, Adolph. I can see it now. That was the time, and you've been knowing me for 30 years. That was the time I couldn't see it. I did it because I couldn't see it. I said it because I couldn't see it. I went there because I couldn't see it. I stepped my foot in it because I couldn't see it. But the interest of that word has given me light now, and now I can see it. And let me tell you what man has subscribed to. Look at the verse, Kim. Here's what he is. This is the sadness he subscribed to. Listen to this now. He subscribed to the Lord shall not see, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. This is what he subscribed to. And this has created in man a tenacity, because he has subscribed to the thought God don't see it and God don't regard it. He has belittled God as being ignorant and indifferent. God don't see it, and God don't regard it. Now, because I want you to see what he's done. Look at all over from 1 to 7. Look what it says. It says they break in pieces. Why does the world break in pieces? Why does man break in pieces? Because he have subscribed that God don't see it. They slay, they afflict, they murder. Why does he do that? Because he subscribed. Let me tell you why you do the things you do. Because you have subscribed to the thought that God don't see it. And if he do see it, he don't care. God knows I got needs. God understands. God gonna let me by this time. God know I was a little weak that time. You have subscribed to it. He don't see it and he don't regard it. So you know why you do it? Because you think he okay with it. This is what the world subscribed to. Don't you subscribe to that? So he's evil continuously. Let me say this unto you. Man don't need a devil to be evil. Man don't need a devil to be wicked. I didn't need I'm not gonna lie. The devil didn't make me do it. The devil just showed me who to do it with. The devil just showed me a place to do it at. The devil didn't make me say it. He just made sure that the person I needed to say it to was in Walmart that day. We are wicked even without the devil. Our wickedness don't need no help. Now the last thing I want to tell you is that not just the tenacity of men's tenacity, but I want to tell you about men's audacity. They got this audacity to subscribe that God don't regard it and he don't see it, so I'm going to do it. Watch me now. He don't know nothing about it. But we serve a God that don't miss nothing. A God that not only sees everything, but has saw everything. And this is why I love it. He saw everything I've done and still made me the pastor. Wait a minute. He saw everything you did and you're still living. You're still up on your 2 feet. You still got a place. Saw everything you did and you still got a place to stay. Still got food to eat when you get home. Still can feel the tips of your finger. All the stuff you've done. I want you to see 3 words here. I'm about done. Yet they say. That's a saying. Not with the mouth, but with conduct. Are you saying it with the way you live? Yet they say. They say God don't see it. And this has been our history in America. Because they do it to us because God don't see it. Every time a murderer take a life, he take a life because he said that God don't see it. Every time a rapist take virtue, he takes your virtue because he says God don't see it. Every time a man mistreat and put his hands on a woman, he do it because he think God don't see it or regard it. Every time the government raise taxes on the poor and give breaks to the rich, they think that God don't see it. That's the reason why we had slavery in this country, because they thought God didn't see it or regard it. The reason why we had Jim Crow in this country, the reason why we had colored this and white this, is because they thought that God didn't see it or regard it. The reason why Derek Chauvin can keep his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes is because he thought that God didn't see it or that God didn't care. The reason why Donald Trump cannot pay taxes but you're going to pay him this year is because this man thought that God didn't see it. The reason why he can go to January 6th and send insurrections to the Capitol is because he thought that God didn't see it or that God didn't care. The reason why the world is in a mess today is because they think that God don't see it. This is what they subscribe to. There's somebody in this church that's going to take a drink tonight, that's going to fornicate tonight, that's going to roll a joint tonight, that's going to sleep with somebody that's not their wife or their husband tonight. It's because they think that God don't see it, that he don't care. We're in a mess, Pastor. This where it ends? No. We got next week. I'll show you next week how the conclusion of this matter. Just want to give you a preview. Bow your heads.
Hi there, we are all out of time, but Pastor Faison is not out of Raymer. Please be sure to join us on Sunday mornings for worship, as well as Wednesday evening for services. You'll be glad you did. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, as well as YouTube, and hit that subscribe button to assure that you do not miss out on any of these teachings. May God bless you and keep serving.